I reserve the right, as President of the United States, to meet with anybody at a time and place of my choosing if I think it's going to keep America safe.
Welcome back to Inside Iraq. We are asking the question, how will the election of Senator Obama as a president impact Iraq? We are talking to Robert Versing, Alistair Campbell, Jack Berkman, and Ghassan Al-Atiyah. Alistair Campbell, relatively Iraq is secure and safe right now in comparison with 2006 and 2007. Several factors contributed to that relative stability. First, the Muqtada al-Sadr ceasefire and Jaish al-Mahdi. Second, the awakening councils, they helped the American forces perhaps in the Anbar and in western Iraq as well as in Baghdad. And third, Al-Qaeda almost has been expunged out of Iraq. The drawdown and pulling of US troops, how will it affect those three factors?
Yes, I agree. Just before I answer that question, I just want to take one issue with Jack Borkman. I don't think the Iranians will see future President Barack Obama as a weak president just because he's not prepared to do indiscriminate bombing all over the place. To be conciliatory or to enter negotiations doesn't mean you're weak. And I think they will see his strength, particularly after he's got overwhelming electoral victory behind him. But going to questions, yes, I mean, we're entering dangerous times. And I think that although it's positive with Jaish al-Mahdi on the run, with Al-Qaeda moved out of parts of Iraq thanks to Sahwa, but of course things could change. As the drawdown proceeds, I think there are risks which will be taken. But I think on the whole, the Iraqi people now are taking more in hand themselves. I think their armed forces are much more capable than they were in the past. And as long as the Americans don't draw down too quickly, still the Iraqis rely very heavily on the Americans for example, their strategic intelligence, for their air defense, particularly in their air force at the moment, and also for their logistics, particularly air transport support. And the Americans will have to supply this for some time. So there's no question of immediate running away. The Americans will be there. Of course, the other question is, what do you constitute combat troops? I think although the Americans would say we'll draw down combat troops, they've agreed to leave quite a few trainers and mentors. And how large and what they do, I think, will be subject to negotiation and will be the key to the future of Iraq in the next 2 or 3 years.
A lot is going to depend also, Ghassan Al-Atiyah, on how Al-Maliki is going to deal with this new reality. For instance, the file of Al-Sahwa and the Awakening Councils has been transferred since October 1st to them. Yeah. The way he deals with them is going to have direct implications for the stability of Iraq.
The crucial point in all this discussion is what sort of Iraq we will have once the American forces are out. If Iraq will be as in turmoil, a battlefield, then this is self-defeating. I doubt whether Obama or any president will allow this. Here there are several components to be dealt with. First, on the internal level, Obama will be better advised if he will appoint a special envoy and to deal with the situation in Iraq rather than the way it was dealt before, that is President Bush speaking directly to al-Maliki, undermining his own military commander and ambassador. Two, there will be a conditionality here. The question is, American support to al-Maliki should not be an open-ended. There are things he has to deliver. One of the most important things is free and fair elections, whether in the provincial in next January or the parliamentarian end of next year. This is very important cross point whereby we can bring back sort of the forces, alienated forces, back into the political arena. Because now, according to all Bush resources and experts, al-Maliki government is still behaving as a sectarian government. They have to change their policies. Third, the question of region. Once Obama decided to reach the Iraqi issue regionally, and in this sense he is actually taking a leaf from Bacon and Hamilton report, I think this is a better deal. This is not a question of creating a new balance of power in the Middle East.
You said something very important, Ghassan Al-Atiyah. Let me run it by Jack Berkman. Ghassan just said that al-Maliki is still behaving as a sectarian leader. To what extent, if that behavior does not change, Obama will lean on him and lean on him very hard?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but something related to that. There's another possibility. One possibility, you have to remember, Barack Obama will not want to be seen as weak. The other possibility is that he may overreact. In a lot of ways, Bush has been very judicious, very cautious, and very limited in Iraq. the U.S. could have been and could be a lot more brutal in dealing with insurgents. The reason that Bush doesn't want to do that is he doesn't want the collateral damage and the civilian carnage. I mean, there are ways to bring insurgencies to an end very quickly. They involve killing lots of people. But in some sense, you realize that maybe to save the country, you have to kill everybody in it. George Bush hasn't wanted to pursue that kind of a course of action. One possibility is that a guy like Obama will be so afraid of being seen as weak that he might overreact in Iraq. And that's something I think Maliki has to think about. That's something we all have to think about.
Alistair, you just heard Jack drawing a comparison between the trigger-happy Obama, perhaps carpet bombing vis-a-vis the restrained President Bush.
Well, I don't think Obama will fall into that temptation. I think that Jack Borkman has ridiculously parodied Bush's view. I think the idea that you can defeat insurgency by massive killing was General Sanchez's view, almost, and that didn't get anywhere. No, General Petraeus has got closer to it.
I didn't say that. Wait. I didn't say that was Bush's view. I said Bush. What I'm asserting is that my belief is that George Bush has been judicious and restrained. That's Bush.
There
is another view.
I've been on streets of Baghdad, and I've seen American soldiers shooting indiscriminately, and security cameras, American security cameras shooting indiscriminately on the street, and all they've done is recruited people to Al-Qaeda. Is not the way to counterinsurgency, and George Bush has not been judicious either.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is. You misunderstand. What I'm saying is, if you had Joseph Stalin or Adolf Hitler trying to suppress an insurgency, they would pursue far more brutal tactics than the United States is doing. All I'm saying is there are ways to end insurgencies. Bush is not doing that. What I'm saying is
Jack,
George Bush has been very charitable and very judicious.
Professor Versing, before I go back to Ghassan Al-Atiyah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to return to Dr. Atiyah's comments because they're extremely important. I agree entirely with what he has said. The buzzword in Washington, where all of these things are being given very close attention, is conditional engagement. Conditional engagement is a pledge, includes a pledge to the government in Baghdad that the United States will remain and provide support, economic and military assistance to that government, but it will not be an open-ended commitment. It will be conditional upon serious efforts by that government to move towards a less corrupt and a more stable government that overcomes its sectarian differences and promises stability in the future. It's important also to recognize, as was mentioned earlier, it does not include a drawdown of U.S. forces over 16 months. That was a mistake. It's widely recognized in Washington that it was a mistake. It's completely unrealistic, and it will not happen. I do expect a few combat brigades of the 15 there to be removed
going back to
in the first several months.
Afghanistan.
Because that's tolerable. But other than that, it's clear that the Obama administration is prepared for an almost indefinite stay until circumstances allow and warrant U.S. withdrawal.
Let me ask that, Ghassan Al-Atiyah. I thought the date is 2012. Is that a complete withdrawal, or is that leaving a residual force?
No. Here I mentioned that the word responsibly is somehow qualify the withdrawing. The other point is, Obama is a constitutional lawyer. He is very meticulous. He behaved without big emotions in winning or in defeat, and he will not be happy trigger. On the contrary, he is the one who aware of the fact that the Iraqi problem is a political problem and will not be solved by arms or by military alone. Having understood this, the major factor in this, first, is to bring in the alienated section of the Iraqi society into the political game. If the government will be forthcoming, Iraqi government, that's great. Otherwise, they have to put a pressure.
We will know that, Ghassan Al-Atiyah, early next year when there is the provincial election as well as the national elections. Before I close the program, Jack Berkman, with the outcome of Iraq, whether it's going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, would have been different if McCain was a president?
I don't think so. I think I agree. I agree with the prevailing wisdom here that America's there for a number of years to come. Like I said, I actually think that Obama is the one with the greatest possible propensity to be more brutal and tougher in Iraq.
Thank you very much. Alistair Campbell, a quick reaction, and then I close with Professor Versing.
Yeah, I rather agree with Jack Baldwin. I think not much difference had McCain been elected. I think the progress in Iraq, because of the military mathematics, be much the same. But I think the difference is Obama's prepared to talk to regional allies and regional former enemies, which McCain would not have done.
Will 2009 be better for Iraq in comparison with 2008?
I think very definitely so. I believe that President Obama is committed to change, not to the immediate withdrawal of U.S. forces, but the circumstances are going to change. He's going to open talks with the neighbors in Iraq, and that is going to put the United States on a very different trajectory.
Professor Versing, Alistair Campbell, Jack Berkman, and Ghassan Al-Atiyah. Gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq. To access the show and to send us your comments, please go to aljazeera.net/English. That's all the time we have for this week. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, goodbye.